70 on page 86 of the mechanical drawing textbook. There's a number of ways you can go about doing this, but I'm going to use a little strategy. Basically, I'm going to continue to make rectangles, and I'm going to put them together, and I'm just going to connect them by lines, and then use trim command to or the explode command and get rid of the lines I don't need. I notice that I study a problem and note that I've got my outer square is 8 square inches, and I've got an inner square 1/4 of an inch offset to the inside of that 8-inch square. So in other words, it's going to be a 7.5 inch square square in the middle. And I notice the width of these 3 inner squares are 2 1/4, and the width of these boxes on the outside are 1 3/4, and I know that the distance spacing between these objects is 5/8 of an inch, and there's 1/4 of an inch in between the boxes. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a 8-inch square. All right, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to come down to my drawing. I'm going to create at 8,8. Alright, and I know it's going to overlap my drawing, but don't worry about it. We'll scale it down. I'll just go ahead and move this, and I'll move it over a little bit, and I will go ahead and I'll scale it down later, and I'll worry about overlapping this line later. When I scale it down, it'll fit perfectly. Alright, so I'm going to introduce what the offset command is. The offset command is a very handy little tool. What it does is it'll offset a particular pattern or object specified distance on the inside or outside of that same object, and I'll show you how it works. I click the offset tool, and I'm going to specify offset distance. I'm going to offset this outer rectangle inside by 1/4 of an inch. So my distance is going to be 1/4 of an inch, or 0.25. I enter that. And now my command line says select object to offset. I'm going to select that square. And lastly, it says specify point on side to offset. I want it on the inside, so I'm going to click anywhere on the inside of this square. And you'll notice that what appears is another perfect square. It's just offset 1/4 of an inch inside. Alright, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come off to the right of my drawing, and I'm going to make all these rectangles. Alright, so I'm going to pan off a little bit. I'm just going to resize this picture to give myself a little bit more room. Alright, and here we go. I'll start with my first rectangle. And I know it's going to be 1 3/4 at 1.75, 1.75. Good, and now I know that I'm going to make this one, and it's 1/4 of an inch away, so I'm going to use my line method to locate that. I'm going to make a 1/4 inch line at 0.25, 0, and I'm going to make this rectangle as 2 1/4 wide by 1 1/4 high. So I snap that, and I type in at 2.25, 1.75. I'm going to make another line at 0.25, 0, and I'm going to copy this object. I'm going to copy it from there to there. Now I'm going to make another 1/4 of an inch line up at 0, 0.25. And this inner rectangle is going to be at -1 3/4, 2 1/4. So I come here and I type in at -1.75, 2.25. Continuing on, I'll make a 1/4 of an inch at -0.25, 0. Now this is going to be my biggest square. It's going to be 2 1/4 square. So I click my rectangle tool, and I make it at negative 2.25 comma negative, oh, I'm sorry, it's not negative, 2.25. Now I can come and I can make another at negative 0.25 comma 0. I'm going to copy this object. Use this as a corner as my base point. I'm going to move it over there. Now I'm almost done. I'm going to copy this entire bottom set of squares up to the top. So I'm going to make at 0 comma 0.25, make my line, and now I'm going to copy this square, and this square. Use this as my base point. I'm going to move it up to the top. Alright, now I've got some pieces that I need to put together. So I'm going to click the line tool, and I need to make a line here, connect those, line there, connect those, repeat the line. I've got to connect these 2 points, and one last one. Alright, now going with what I did in my last drawing, I'm going to explode all these rectangles, the ones that I need to get rid of pieces on the outside to look like my finished product. So I'm going to highlight all the outer rectangles. Don't do the inside one. We need that. And I'm going to click the explode tool, and then I can simply click on the pieces that I want gone. I'm almost done. I just got to get rid of that line and that line. Now I'm going to move this. I'm going to click my polyline tool, and I can use this inner part of this rectangle to move it. Alright, and again, I'm going to click this line to that line, right? And I'm going to move this entire tic-tac-toe board. I'll select that midpoint. I'll move back here, and I'm going to snap it right to the center point. And if I've done all my squares the correct amount of distance, you should see that there should be 5/8 of an inch between the edges. So let's double check. You can come in here and use this linear dimension tool to check some of your dimensions. I click it, and I can click on this corner and this corner and pull it up, and you'll see that 0.625 is indeed 5/8 of an inch. So I know I've done my math correctly. I can go ahead and click it and delete that. Now it's just simply a matter of scaling this down and fitting it to my template. So I'm going to click the scale command, and I'm going to window this entire tic-tac-toe board and select a corner and type in 3/4 or 0.75 will work. Now I'm going to center that one, and move it. Delete my polyline, and I am done. Make sure your tic-tac-toe board reads in your description. Put in today's date. The scale was 0.75 equal 1, and save it as your first initial, last name 3-70.